Good morning. There was an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, just the night before last. And I've noticed some things about that, about lunar eclipses, and thought you might be interested in that. So, a lunar eclipse, in case you don't know, is when the shadow of the Earth passes over the moon and basically makes the moon hide. So a solar eclipse is when the moon passes in front of the sun, between the Earth and the sun is hidden. So this was a lunar eclipse, and it was an interesting experience. I meditated during the eclipse, like the peak of the eclipse when the moon was actually hidden, and felt so odd. Like, think about being sort of adrift without an anchor, like a balloon, say, just kind of floating around vaguely. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but it was like I had lost my bounds. I had lost my foundation. Everything was just loose and adrift, and I couldn't get my bearings. That's pretty much what it felt like. It was a very uncomfortable feeling. And now, understand, I have said for years that eclipses are a good time to do magic or manifestation or intentions, because the energy, there's a gap. It's like when the eclipse happens and the moon is hidden, sorry about that. When the moon is eclipsed, there's an energy void. It's like the structure that the moon gives us, the structure that we've built emotionally, has been eclipsed. Essentially, it's momentarily dismantled. And in Qigong and the Asian practices, the Eastern practices, they say that eclipses are unfortunate times because the energy is chaotic and disturbed. And I totally felt that when I was meditating. If you were meditating at that time, or maybe you were just sensitive and aware of what was going on, you might feel it as well. And see if you can't try this with the next eclipse. Meditate or just become aware of the energy and notice what you feel. So anyway, I've often wondered about that, the difference in perspective between what I have sensed in that it's an excellent time to do magic, and what the Eastern belief is around it being an unfortunate time, and you basically should just hunker down and not take any chances and just be as solid as you can. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense now. Like I've gotten the connection. If you're just functioning on sort of the mortal level, like the ego level, physical mundane level, then an eclipse is disruptive. It shakes up the foundations. It dismantles the structures. That is really uncomfortable and potentially disturbing, potentially disruptive. If you're in a state, however, if you've moved on to co-creating in your life, then it's an opportunity. Yes, the structures are broken down. Right on. That's excellent. What can we put in their place? right? It's an opportunity to plan, not even plan, but intend or create the energy momentum for what you want to bring more of in your life. And it's a perfect opportunity to shake off and let go of the things that you don't want in your life anymore. So that's what I've noticed that is going on in the eclipse, and that's why there are these two contradictory viewpoints, which actually makes me think of something that I wanted to, that came through a while ago that I was going to talk about with you, but never had the opportunity or time. And that is how there are different layers of teachings. You know, one thing that used to drive me crazy was when I was studying to be a yoga teacher and you know, doing an intensive, like, brutal, grueling 9-month solid night and day yoga practice. I came across some things that Swami Shivananda had written. And I was very into the mantra practice and the power of sound and the sound vibration. And so I was studying this, and one thing Swami Shivananda said in one of his books was to pick one mantra and focus on that and stick with one mantra. And if you want good results, you just do one mantra all the time. And so that was fine. I was doing that. But later, when I was reading something else that he'd written, he said, do all the mantras. The best thing to do is to do all the mantras. And I was like, you know, what's going on here? And I've noticed that, you know, with all kinds of spiritual teachers, Jesus did the same thing. You know, I think they probably all did the same thing. And it took me a long time to realize it's because they were talking to different people in different stages of their spiritual path, their spiritual growth. And at one level, the best possible thing to do in this instance, say, is to do all the mantras and just soak up all of that energy of all of the facets of the divine. And when you get to another layer of practice, it's most beneficial to stick with one practice and go deeply as possible into that one practice. So that's kind of, well, I think that's just important to understand because it makes sense of a lot of those things that seem contradictory. You know, the greatest spiritual teachers of in history saying completely contradictory things, self-contradictory things. Well, now we know they're not actually self-contradictory. They are both true. They're all true on different levels. And, you know, we're getting to a level now globally where we can understand the deeper teachings and the higher teachings. You know, I was thinking about that, or it came through this morning while I was meditating, that it's taken humanity 200,000 years since we've shown up here, Homo sapiens. 200,000 years to kind of figure out how to be immortal on this planet, right? To just kind of figure out how to live on the planet. And now we're finally ready to start not just being mortal. Now we're starting to find out how to be co-creators while in a physical form. And that's what all that stuff is about, how that manifestation, affirmations, intention, you know, the secret, what the bleep, all of that stuff. And then the great teachers that I admire so much, like Greg Braden and Lynn McTaggart, and even Joe Dispenza's, he's got really excellent work and guidance on this process. And we're finally at that stage for humanity, where we're all being able to step up into that power, and that power is right here, it's like right now, it's so much more accessible than it ever has been, at least in recorded history and what we understand of history. So now we can use our awareness of the physical energies, like the moon and the sun and the stars and the planets. And in case you're wondering, there's, they're not, I don't think there's anybody reputable saying that those are, planets, those are things so far out there and unconnected from us they can't possibly affect us. I don't think there's anybody saying that anymore, because they now know that, and have proven that everything is interconnected in a web. All of the planets and galaxies and stars, they're all interconnected in this web of energy and influencing each other. So we're not crazy, and there's always been something to that, even if rationally it didn't make sense. Now the rationality is starting to catch up. But what I'm trying to say is that we can understand that when the moon is eclipsing, that gives us certain potentials. And in the same way, the sun, what's going on with the sun is really a strong influence on what's going on with us, which maybe I'll talk about tomorrow, because there was something else I was hoping to get to, and we're already out of time. So I guess I could sum it up, but I've said what I need to say, I think, and what I needed to convey in order. Now I'm just blathering. I'll just go. I wish you a lovely day, and I hope that you can use the openings that the world presents you, where things break down, to create and choose your new structures, choose your new patterns, decide what you're going to let go of and what you're going to call in, and let the energy of the universe really work for you in the best way that you can. So I hope you have a lovely day, and I will chat with you again tomorrow. Blessed be.